It should be everyone's right to decide for themselves the validity of different historical models. For myself, the evidence would be overwhelming in a court of law for architectural deception. It is the same with the glitches in NASA's ISS and spacewalk footage. Some things cannot be unseen. The outlandish claims of the Victorian period cannot be substantiated, and there are errors in the trail of misinformation. A plaque with a date on it isn't cutting it. On the contrary, more reason for suspicion. Why do you want the people to believe certain things? Looking first at two broad categories of building: the grand, block-like, classical quads, controlled by the universities, and then churches, given over to the Anglicans, whose head, since Henry VIII, is the royal family. The styles do follow each other over centuries, but with much overlap and diversity, meaning a sculpture from the 1500s could be mistaken for ancient. This helps muddy the waters, but luckily common sense works on the side of truth. The practical impossibility of these erroneous timeframes is often enough to discredit them. It is left to guesstimate Bangor University Arts Campus at about 1000 AD, the cathedral perhaps 2000 years ago. These buildings don't have the quaint, elegant look of what may be the late Old World era, seen in houses, town halls, piers, bandstands, train stations, even phone/letterboxes, which give the suggestion of leisure, use of electricity, and a highly developed infrastructure. I think one of the greatest 19th century red herrings, necessary to make it all make sense, is that of a superior Egyptian, then Greek culture, cities and philosophy over anywhere else on the plain, mythologizing the rest. The Vikings, Northmen for example, that their expansion of influence was due to force because their technology was not on par with the southern Mediterranean. So it is, ancient history has been relegated to primary schools in UK syllabuses. All the things connected to the Egyptian pyramids, mathematics, balance, harnessing energy, astronomy, may be observed in Tartarian architecture. We are left to imagine the goings-on in these spacious interiors, panelled corridors, winding stone staircases and gardens. Particularly the manor houses in highly organised grounds with walkways and water fountains. A celebration of flat earth geometry. Next to a gardener's appreciation of nature. Things antithetical to the post-industrial age. Just to put it in perspective, the very modern buildings put up in the 50s and 60s, using concrete and cheap materials, plastic, no similarity to the old world stuff, or sunk into the ground from mud flooding. These are supposed to be just half their age. The timeline simply does not work. Partly why so many nice antique buildings are boarded up or in ruins, not being upkept as they might easily be. Nothing to see here, don't ask questions. So its British cities and towns resemble a patchwork from all the rebuilds and bits added. In the case of Bangor Cathedral, there's a mention of work done in 1248, then again 1532, but the real info waits for another London-based capitalist, George Gilbert Scott, who moves in to do work with the monetary support of Lord Penrhyn, 1868. The expression chosen by Wikipedia, quote, under the supervision, whatever that means, shuffling papers probably. The cathedral was used as a vax centre in 2021. Organised religion, predictably selling out the people. Luke 11:11. What father among you, if his son asks for a fish, will give him a snake instead? Scott is accredited with other great churches, like Nikolakirche, Hamburg, though again it's a concession of a rebuild. It was also conveniently bombed during World War II. Also, the sublime intricate stonework in the tomb of Catherine Parr. No surprise he is knighted for deceiving the peasantry. 9th of August 1872. The name attached to Bangor University Arts Building is Henry Hare, member of the Royal Institute of British Architects, president of the Architectural Association. Apparently he liked to put a carving or picture stroke stained glass of a hare in every building he designed, which was a lot of the nicest ones. He received the Ashpittle Prize, 1886. Public awards giving a further psychological tactic in validating what, if it were true, would be incredible skill, nay, superhuman powers. Within may be admired the Pritchard Jones Hall, 1914, named after a £15,000 donation. Whatever was really going on, large amounts in those days of money was exchanging hands. At least with Henry there's an account of formal education, which is quite extensive. Beginning the trade aged 16 in Scarborough, after 4 years he travels to the prestigious Allières-Ginan, Paris. Then 8 years later, back with King and Hill firm, London. Still, doesn't seem enough when, hypothetically, there was a completely different system in the old world. Entire guilds, workshops, dedicated to just one aspect of a grand project, as in the Renaissance, whether roofing, flooring or windows. Strange there are no references to anyone else involved, as in those that actually did the physical work. Those indefatigable donkeys pulling giant stones from quarries. Below, Oxford Town Hall, one of Hare's, 1893. It's a Gothic revival, don't you know? Indistinguishable from the real thing. Observe the exquisitely carved gargoyles. You can just see inside some high-hanging chandeliers. Lead-panelled Tudor windows. The main space handles 742 people standing. Length 27.5 metres. Height 12.2 metres. Why would you have this for council offices? It's obviously meant for performances, music or balls perhaps. Opened by the Prince of Wales, 12th of May, 1897. Keen to reinforce their narrative, there is an exhibition including a 3D map of the town hall in Oxford Museum. Wikipedia tells us there were violent protests by students the day of the opening. Maybe they had an inkling of what was going on. Certainly not fans of the Prince or there to congratulate Hare. There are within many paintings from the 16th and 17th centuries. It would be logical to suppose these had accumulated over time, then brought together in the arts section. As so often, Oxford Hall's official website mixes truth with lies. The date 1290 is given, and the burgesses of Oxford as those responsible, which sounds reasonable, no need for alteration. Top, Thomas Hare in portraiture, overseeing from his shadowy office. Right, his sculpture of John Milton, 1600 intellectual and political influencer, author of Paradise Lost, idolized by the Freemasons.